everyone. This is Hope from Pros Before Bros, and it is Saturday, finally! This week has been so ungodly long. Unfortunately, the temperature here in Cincinnati is still really fucking high. I went out for a few errands, and it looks like we have reached, I think my car digital thingamajig said 97 degrees. It's like, what the fuck? Why am I even going outside? But anyway, we're not here to talk about the weather here in Cincinnati. We're here to talk about what books I've been reading and what books I've finished and all that. Of course, this week is Contemporaryathon. And even though I read a lot of contemporary, some of it just doesn't fit up with the challenges. I did finish quite a few books, given that my week was really kind of crazy at work. Two of which were audiobooks, so I'm not going to really dive into those per se. I'm going to talk about the physical books since I don't have physical copies to show you. But yeah, we'll just go ahead and jump right into the books I've read that kind of deem as contemporary, kind of, sort of. So yeah, we'll jump right into it, shall we? So the first book that I read that has been kind of sitting, it's been sitting in my TBR since, I think last month was when it was released. I want to say it was last month. And that is Rainbow Rowell's book, Pumpkinheads. Now, this is a graphic novel that was done with her counterpart, Faith Erin Hicks. Erin Hicks is also the author of Friends of Boys, which I have not read. But this is the book here. And I actually am really excited to share this with you guys because I was able to meet both Faith and Rainbow. They did a book signing and a book reading discussion group at Joseph Beth here in Cincinnati. And I was able to meet them. Really nice people. I love Rainbow, you guys. She is so amazing. Like, she came in her Halloween garb. She had like this cute, it was like a black dress with like bats on it. It was really awesome. And she was wearing jack-o'-lantern earrings. She was fabulous. She was like, she was just awesome. But anyway, I picked this book up while I was at the book signing. And I got hiccups because I just ate. Excuse me. I hate that. Why does that happen every time I record for you guys? But anyway, this book, Pumpkinheads, is about two characters. One's Deja. Deja is this beauty right here. The other one is Josiah. And they are seasonal best friends. So what that means in this book is that they work at Pumpkin Patch during the fall time. They've been working at this pumpkin patch ever since they were, I believe, like 15 years old, maybe. Whenever the legal age is to actually start working, they start working together. And this is their last year at the pumpkin patch before they go their separate ways to college, what have you. And Deja and Josiah are spending their last night together, and Josiah has a crush on another girl at the pumpkin patch. And basically Deja is kind of leading him on this scavenger hunt, per se, to find this girl so he can confess that he does have feelings for her. So it takes you through the entire night. A lot of quirky things happen. A lot of maybe expected or maybe unexpected, depending on your audience, surprises pop up throughout the course of the evening. I really loved this book. It was so adorable. I love the character of Deja. She is a person of color, and she identifies, I don't know if she identifies as bisexual or pansexual. Either way, she doesn't identify directly as straight. And she's a plus size character. And that is something that I absolutely love to see in any young adult book. But it's like the first I've ever seen it in a plus, well, I guess it's not the first, is it? Because there was another book that I did. It was like a what was it? It was a graphic novel about space. And I can't remember the name. That's terrible. But there was a plus size young adult pansexual character in there as well. But here is our characters. You could kind of see them in their little overalls and their flannels. I just loved it. It was so fallish. But the drawings in here, the illustrations are just so beautifully done. And just an interesting evening with Rainbow Rowell and Faith Evans. Why do I keep saying that? Faith Erin Hicks. Because they talked about how this book has been like on the back burner for a couple years because they always wanted to do a collaboration together, but they just didn't know how to do it. And I think Rainbow decided one day she was going to sit down and just write out like a little screenplay script situation. She sent it over to Faith. Faith really loved the idea. She ran with it and developed these great characters. So, as you can tell, it's just so cute. If you guys get a chance to read it, I do highly recommend reading this. It took me about a day to read. It is, oh gosh, I think it's 200 pages, if I remember right. We'll find out. We'll find out here shortly. 207 pages. Well, maybe a little more. Yeah, 207 pages. So if you get a chance, pick it up. It is a super duper fast read. I think, like I said, I read it within a day, and I think on Goodreads I gave it 5 stars. And I feel like that's a solid number for this. For Rainbow Rowell's first introduction into the role of doing a graphic novel, I think she did a very fantastic job. Faith Erin Hicks also did a just incredible job with the illustrations. It makes me really want to pick up the rest of her books as well. So there is that. I believe that they also have it out in paperback too. So if you don't want a hardback and you want to get the paperback to save you a little bit of money, you can. So like I said, I did pick this up to get it signed. And I also, while I was there, had Rainbow sign my Fangirl Special Edition and my Eleanor and Park Special Edition. Unfortunately, I didn't have attachments with me, or else I would have had that signed too. But there we go. I got both of Rainbow's signatures and Faith's signatures in this. So yeah, I did finish that book finally. I love it. The next book I read that I just kind of decided at the last minute to read was a book that was on my TBR forever. Like seriously, it was released last September. And that book is Sadie by Courtney Summers. So I did I did something that I don't normally do too much with books. I actually read the hardback and I listened to the audiobook like when I was at work. So if I wasn't able to readily read, I'd listen to the audiobook. And I don't really do that too much because I feel like sometimes that can be confusing. Because, you honestly, it takes some time to figure out what your place is. You can't necessarily stop right at chapter 5 on an audiobook. But I got sucked into this book so fast. I started reading it, I think it was Wednesday evening. No, it wasn't Wednesday evening. It was Thursday evening. Went to work, listened to the audiobook of it, and then finished off the whole book on Friday night. So, yesterday. But it follows the story of this girl by the name of Sadie. And this probably, I feel like it was on a bestseller list last year. It follows the story of Sadie Hunter, who goes missing. In addition to her little sister, Maddie. Maddie goes missing, I want to say a few months prior to Sadie, and is found, unfortunately, killed. Her body was found in the woods. Very true crimey feeling. And it opens up really unique. So the storyline opens up when Wes McCoy, who's like this very popular podcast reporter, decides to do a whole podcast around these girls. and their disappearances. So you see his perspective, you see the perspective of the girls. It's not their actual grandmother, but it's like a grandmother. What is the word I'm looking for? Surrogate grandmother. That's what I'm trying to think of. Excuse me, food coma's kicking in. So it's a surrogate grandmother, and then a list of other characters that have had some sort of interaction with one girl or both girls, etc. You get the perspective of Sadie. Sadie is a very, very interesting character. She, like I said, is a little older than Maddie. She has a stuttering issue, which I can relate to because I sometimes stutter. I think it's obvious sometimes when I do these videos. I do have a little bit of a stuttering issue that I've dealt with ever since I was a little girl, and I'm starting to get a little bit better with it. So I can easily relate to Sadie in this case, where you're in the middle of something really tragic like losing your sister, and you're trying to find the answers as to what happened to your sister, but you have this barrier, this language barrier that's holding you back. This book, I am pleasantly surprised how good this book is. I ended up giving it a 5 stars as well. I'd probably rate it back down to 4.75 though, because you don't really hear whatever happens to Sadie. You see her backstory, but you don't get the final result. You get an assumption, and that's about it. The cool thing about this book, and I rarely do this, is I actually like the audiobook a little bit better than the physical book itself. The reason why I say that is the audiobook is set up almost like a podcast. So it's like you're almost listening to a podcast throughout your day. And they actually have different voices. So you have the voice of the radio host, you have the voice of Sadie, and you also have the voice of the radio host talking to other witnesses that are somewhat involved in the case of these missing girls. And it is such an incredible, captivating audiobook. I've never been so captivated with an audiobook before. And I was so impressed with it. Does that mean I say don't read the hardback at all? Absolutely not. I think that, everybody to each your own. You might prefer the audiobook or you might prefer the hardback. That's up to you at the end of the day. But combining the both of them and listening and kind of reading at the same time was such a unique experience. So I really enjoyed this book. Like I said, Goodreads kind of made me pick between like 4 stars and 5. I ended up going with 5, but realistically, I probably would have put in 4.75. So there is that. That is Sadie Courtney Summers, and this would actually count for Contemporaryathon as well, because you have the illustrated cover, you have a very dark subject matter. Unfortunately, it was released in 2018, so you can't use that new release thing. Let's see. I can't think of anything else. There might be some other things that tie in really well. Different perspective, certainly. If you have never dealt with stuttering or anything like that, this might be something that puts something else into perspective. So there's that. Okay, and the next book that I finished reading, and I'm still shocked about, is The Flatmate, and that is by Beth O'Leary. Everybody has been talking about this book on YouTube, or BookTube, if you will. I believe Melted Annie has read it. I believe... Who else read it? Natasha has read it from My Reading is Odd. And of course, Chelsea from Chelsea Darling Reads has read it. And they all love this book. I think they all gave it 5 stars. Pretty sure Natasha went with 5 stars, if I remember correctly. And I am still stunned, because at first I was going to DNF this book. The first 60 pages I felt like dragged, and I was like, not liking this. I'm not having a good time with this sucker. This sucks. And then it picked up just like that. It was like super duper fast that it picked up, and I started falling in love with it. So it went from being like a 2-star all the way up to, I won't say a 5-star, I would say a 4.5 if I had to rate it. If I had to rate outside of Goodreads, let's put it that way. But it actually was pleasantly surprising. So one thing I did notice with this book that I think was the turnoff for me for such a long time was it's told in two different perspectives. So you have the character of Tiffy, who is a female character in the story, and she is also an editor of like crafting books, like the White books. She is very eloquent in the way she talks throughout her chapters. Like she punctuates everything correctly. She uses the correct grammar, so on and so forth. And then we have Leon, our male counterpart here, and his chapters are kind of rushed, and they are missing simple things like the or a at the very beginning of a sentence. The grammar is okay, but everything's very rushed, almost kind of forced. And at first, that just was like a huge turnoff. I'm like, why is this switching back and forth? This is just not cohesive. I don't like that. But over a period of time, I started to realize that was just simply his character. He is like a junior doctor at a hospice, so his days are rushed. He doesn't have the luxury of standing still for a certain period of time. And now I kind of understood why it was like that at the very beginning. It could be a turnoff if you're first reading this book. I encourage you, though, to keep pushing through the book. If you're anything like me, that might bother you at first. However, it's definitely worth getting through that first 60 pages, because you're going to get to see the personality of Leon a little bit better and understand why his chapters are laid out that way. And of course, over time, you do see that he kind of slows down a little bit and starts being more thoughtful in his chapters. So I did really like this. I gave it 4.5 stars. I am happy I pushed through it. So if you haven't checked this out, definitely do give it a check out. Like I said, that's The Flat Share by Beth O'Leary. It's kind of like a romantic comedy with some dark substance in it. And it does fit all 7 of the challenges of Contemporaryathon. So there's that. All right. And the next book that I am starting to read is I Stop Somewhere by Tay Carter. Or T.E. Carter. I still haven't figured that out yet. This is kind of a dark, substancey book. I haven't gone too far into it. I think I am on page 22. And it's slowly getting there. It is interesting, but I haven't found out too much details about the main character just yet. Her name is Ellie. I do know that she is in a very dark situation. There is themes of assault. It doesn't go into too much detail what happens, which I appreciate. But it is very dark. It is very heavy. And I think that's another reason why I just haven't been reaching for it that much, because it is pretty intense to go through. So there's that. All right. So those are the books I've finished or started at this point. Tuesday, there were 3 new releases, and then I also got a book in the mail today that I think was released earlier this month. So I will go ahead and show you what I got with that. The next book that I picked up, which was this morning actually came, and it's American Royals by Catherine McGee. It just sounded interesting. It is like an alternative universe where George Washington decides after the Revolutionary War happens that they're going to stay in a monarchy. So instead of having a president of the United States, we have a king. And this is about his descendants. So I haven't really gone too much into it. It just sounded really interesting to have a different perspective on what could have happened. So I did pick that up to do a quick little read through. I also got 3 books here that came out this past Tuesday, the 24th, that I'm really excited about. So let's just go ahead and jump into those real quick. The first book I got here is Slay by Brittany Morris. And isn't that such a pretty cover? I think it's absolutely gorgeous. But it follows the story of Kira Johnson. Kira Johnson is an honor student going through high school, but in her free time, if you will, she is also a gamer. And it's really interesting talking about this dynamic because I think there's a lot of, unfortunately, stereotypes in the black gaming community, and this story talks about those stereotypes. Basically, something really tragic happens in her gaming world community, and it shows, it basically, what's the word I want to use? It sheds light on a prejudice that is kind of underlined in the gaming community, and basically there's a lot of scrutiny involved. I'm using basically a lot. Sorry guys, I'm not trying to be basic Becky over here. But it's supposed to be kind of a darker themed book that has a lot of ethical morals to it. I really am excited about reading this book because it just sounds like it's going to be really incredible based on the Goodreads ARC reviews that they had out there. So yeah, that is Brittany Morris, Slay. The next book that I picked up, and I picked it up with some hesitancy, is The 10th Girl by Sarah Faring. And when I say I picked it up with hesitancy, it's because the book, a lot of people have picked this book up at BookCon and didn't seem to care for it that much. They said it was either slow moving or just not their style. I am interested in it because it's supposed to be a psychological thriller with a haunting twist. And it follows the story of these girls in a boarding school in the 1970s. It's supposed to be spooky, and evidently the 10th girl goes missing. I don't know. A lot of people said they were just okay with it. Maybe I'll be just okay with it. But I really want to give it a shot for the month of October because it does sound like it'd be intriguing. And I like those stories based in the 70s and the 60s. So, all right, the next and final book that I got this Tuesday at New Release Tuesday, good Lord help, that I'm really stoked about is Know My Name, a memoir by Chanel Miller. Now, Chanel Miller has been interviewed a lot through the media these past 2 weeks because of this book. She is, excuse me, hiccups. She is actually one of, I don't like to use the word victim. She is one of the, or the person that was attacked by Brock Turner, sexually assaulted by Brock Turner. Her testimony was basically a Jane Doe testimony. She didn't get any opportunity to put her face out there. I think she probably wasn't even comfortable putting her face out there because she was a Stanford student at the time. And finally, she decided that she wanted her name to be known. So this story is about her life, but also about the incidences that brought her up to this point, that she wants people to know her name. That she's not just this Jane Doe, that she is an actual person that experienced something traumatic and tried to make the best out of the situation. I am super stoked about this book. The book is $28. I was able to find it on Amazon for like 19 something. And that was the new release day price. I'm not sure if it's going to be any lower than that or if it's gone higher. I'm sure over time the price will come down. But yeah, I'm excited about reading this too. I'm very into any sort of memoir, but I really would like to hear her story as well because I feel like the media didn't paint her in such. Well, I guess they didn't paint. She wasn't painted in a negative light. They just kind of disregarded her completely and focused more on her attacker than her, which is just an incredible disservice. But yeah, those are the books I got over this week. I'm really excited to start reading one of the new ones, but also finish up I Stopped Somewhere. Tonight I'm supposed to be going painting. I'm going to go paint. It's like a hocus pocus paint class thing. Paint a hocus pocus themed painting, which I'm excited about. After that, I'm probably going to come home, have some dinner, watch Yesterday. I did pick this up yesterday. Haha, got it yesterday. So I'm going to finally watch this with my husband. We've been looking forward to watching that and probably do some reading and just chill out. But yeah, thank you so much for tuning in once more. Hope your guys' Saturday is going well. And I'll talk to you guys real soon. This is the Book Bitch signing out. Bye.